My contention is all kids have tremendous talents, and we squander them pretty ruthlessly. So I want to talk about education, and I want to talk about creativity.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to memorizing things, it's not like we're actually learning. It's more like we memorize it to get the grade, and then we forget it just to memorize a whole bunch of new things.
Like I can't tell you how to do taxes
Oh yeah,
or any real life situation.
I can agree to that.
I think that I'm so focused with school and all the classes that I have, like math and a math test coming up or a history test coming up. I don't know what there is after high school. I know that I should probably go to college and get my 4-year degree for something, but I have no idea what there is to get my degree for. I don't know what jobs there are out there. And I think part of that is because we focus so much on the material we're learning rather than applying it to real life.
I've noticed, like, I used to always love writing, and like I used to love reading and stuff like that, and as I've gotten older now, like this project we're doing in our English class, it's about creativity. Like basically, like you get assigned, not assigned, but like you get a certain topics, and then you have to make a story about them. I have no idea what to do.
In a 2010 study, it was found creativity has decreased among American children in recent years. Since 1990, children have become less able to produce unique and unusual ideas. 62% of people in the U.S. feel that their creativity is getting stifled by the education systems.
I will say with Common Core, there are some reservations that I have about the free thinking aspect of students. So we have to, as teachers, make sure students hit certain standards, and sometimes those standards are a little stringent when it comes to creativity. I understand those standards, they mean a lot. Students have to be able to do certain things about a certain grade, but at the same time, when we are having those discussions and implementing those standards, sometimes I believe it cuts away from some of the creativity, free thinking, especially in terms of teaching literature. English teachers, not only in Nevada, but states that have adopted Common Core, I've talked to them and they've found that they're not able to actually teach the literature, the beauty of the words. They want to teach rather language, syntax, and things along those lines.
And at our school especially, I'm probably going to put my foot in my mouth, so the teaming and having to do the same exact thing the same exact way, it takes away freedom and creativity from a teacher who knows their kids. So when you have to teach the same exact thing, you know your kids. And it takes away the creativity from a teacher, and so sometimes you feel like you can't teach it as well because you're not teaching it how you would want to teach it.
Does Nevada promote free thinking and creativity? Promote? Yes. Follow through with, or are they accountable for it? No. Conversely to what my colleague said, I actually believe that Common Core provides the most free thinking and type of expressive
if implemented correctly.
If implemented correctly, and that was what I was
Yes.
going to follow up with. If implemented correctly, it allows teachers to have a basis for examination of students' learning in whatever way they see fit. However, in this particular district in which we teach, that's not the case.
They interpret it.
The interpretation and the implementation of Common Core and the particular standards that we have, the way they'd like it to be exhibited doesn't mesh well, or is not doesn't allow students or teachers to operate with any type of free thinking or free-wielding type of you're very bounded. The other thing that's missing from Nevada as far as promoting creativity is they don't really do a lot of they don't do a good job of making sure that citizens have access to the community, having access to the cultural things that we have here, having access to those particular things. I mean, I'd love to take a poll. When's the last time you took a field trip?
I was gonna say, we're not allowed to take our kids off
can't go
campus, and
anywhere.
like, why couldn't we go to a play?
You can't go
Or
anywhere,
even
yeah.
to see a movie of a book that we read, like to go together, like, we would love that. We're just not
Have
able.
fun getting through all the red tape.
Sometimes
Okay.
students don't get the cultural
does.
aspect that goes with the educational aspect to allow them to see how what we're doing here applies outside of the school, and then be able to create something for themselves. It literally doesn't happen. Personally, I think one of the drawbacks is the district size.
Oh, yeah.
It's the,
That's it.
the district sizes and the way the district is funded. Each district gets the same amount of money. But since they have less students, that money is divided up in such a way where there's more money per student as opposed to here in Clark County. So that there's a huge like chasm between what we're able to do, even say 100 miles down the road, because of the way that the funding is.
Logistically, it's very difficult as a teacher when you have, one of my classes right now is 42 kids.
Yeah, I have 43 kids.
How do you meet with them one-on-one about the writing or anything like that? Because you literally can't get to your kids. You know, and we talk about kids feeling lost or the suicide rate in our district or things like that. That's because we do not have the time to get to know them and be the kind of teachers and mentors that we should.
Flat out, I'm gonna say teacher pay. It's just, it's disgusting, and it's so hard. Do you have a second job?
Yeah.
So do I.
Really?
Yeah. So
So do
I
I.
literally don't get paid enough to focus strictly on this job. When the
Stretch
clock
that.
hits 2:46, I'm like, look, I have to go somewhere else and make money in another way. I don't have time to worry about some of these things over here.
Now, if you're at a school that has a lower income student base, now you have to spend money.
There's a
Yeah.
statistic that just came out with teachers, this is the average, spend over $2,000 a year on their students in their classroom, which
But
when
the
you
tax
see
rate
what
is
we make,
$250.
think about the percentage that is of like our
My
pay.
fiance teaches in North Las Vegas, and I can attest that she spends over $1,000 every year at least.
It may not sound a lot to other jobs, but when you're not making
But
much.
when you're making
Yeah.
40 grand, you're like, that's a huge amount
Yeah.
of money. It's hard to gain respect from students when they look at you and say, well, I can manage a McDonald's and make more money than you. I can be a dealer. I don't even have to pass high school to go be a dealer at a table games, and between my tips and hourly pay, make more money than you. Why am I listening to you at all? And you often find that here, and that was a phenomenon that I was I was unprepared for becoming a teacher coming from a different state, is kids who are just like, whatever, because I know that there's a whole industry out there where I don't need any of these.
I've heard it from a master teacher. She was teaching in Seattle, Tacoma.
Yeah.
And she said she was in there. A student said, I made more money last night on the streets than you did in the last 3 months. How can you tell me what to do? And she didn't have an answer.
And what can you say? And what can you say?
And now you can say that is, you know, you're not going to live
But
very
it's
long.
not about the money.
It's not, you're not going to,
you
you know,
know.
that is, you know, you're doing something illegal. But,
But
at
at the
the
end
same
of the
time,
day, they're saying I drive a better car than you, I
Yeah.
wear better clothes than you, I eat better food than you do, even though you're the person who's educating the future of our country.
you know what though? I wouldn't.
We
want
wouldn't
any other
trade it.
job. I wouldn't.
That's-
I
we're
wouldn't
teachers.
trade my.
Oh, I wouldn't
We
trade it
wanna-
for that.
I wouldn't trade my job for anything. You know,
For
my,
anything.
I have food to put on the table.
Yeah,
I'm
I
going to
love what
tell
I
you,
do.
as a young professional,
happy.
which is something that the education system in the United States, period, is often faces. You have trouble retaining 70% of your teachers who are my age, which is 30 and below, in their first 3 years of teaching, because we have education, we have real skills, we have working experience now. A lot of us have master's degrees, and we look at it and say, I'll go somewhere else and make more money. And that is a huge problem in education, where we have teachers who are dedicated, and I'll high five myself.
Yes.
But if a better
Yeah.
opportunity comes along for me to feed my family, goodbye. It's reflected in our contract.
So what do you think the hierarchy is? How do you think it goes?
It must go math and science first. Math, because math gets 1.25 years of retirement for every year they work. There's an extra incentive in our contract to keep math teachers in the building.
Wow.
That is obviously most important, no question. Next, when you talk about cutting programs or stopping doing things, it's usually electives are first.
Yes,
To go.
if they cut programs, it's usually music,
Yeah.
art.
You're getting music, art, library, things like that. So you're saying
Creativity.
that humanities type courses are less important than the core four, which would be math, science, English, and history.
Yeah.
Annual federal funding allotted to the National Science Foundation $5 billion, while arts and humanities only got $250 million. Art education is often perceived as more luxury than necessity to a child's education.
The consequence is that many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not, because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized.
94% of people value creativity in others. "65% of people think creativity is central to America's role as a global leader."
Oh, all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You have students that you can tell by the doodles in their notebook if they're if they have a bad grade in math, science, history, and English, but you see that you give them a project that they have to associate a
Drawing and
picture
stuff. Oh, yeah.
with words, with quotes, and if they can do that, or they excel at dance. Not just
Emphasis.
statewide,
That's
I
everywhere.
think that's
It's
nationally.
United States education, like as a whole.
They feel
like,
we're falling behind.
yeah, truth be
other
told,
countries.
it's funny, they do. They feel like we're falling behind other countries.
Among 30 developed countries, the U.S. is ranked 25th in math and 21st in science, and among the states, Nevada is last.
We have this idea that if you're 8, you need to be with all the 8-year-olds. If you're 9, you need to be with all the 9-year-olds. No, the truth is, you might come into school at the same age, but you shouldn't go on to the next grade level until you're mentally prepared, and that means that you can show or exhibit that you've learned and mastered the different standards that they're trying to teach you. Oftentimes in this country, we blame the curriculum for why students aren't passing, and then we go spend more money on curriculums, where instead you should be blaming the school system and our ideals, our ideas, our ideologies about instead of, oh, we don't retain anybody, we don't hold anyone back, we push people through, and we're more concerned with making sure that they graduate with their grade level and their age level. That's a very old way of thinking, oh, you need to be physically mature so you can get out and do manual types of work. Well, America makes their money off of information now, not vegetables. No offense. People don't do that anymore. People get paid to think now. So if you're pushing people out into the real world where their mental ability is what's going to make them money and allow them to be successful, but you're pushing them out before they're ready, what are you going to do? You're going to create an underclass of people who are only prepared for service type work. In other countries, you find with this project-based model and retaining people and making sure that they're prepared to move on, that those countries are teaching their learners how to learn, how to become inquisitive, how to be true students of education, as opposed to cheating and copying and I'll do whatever it takes to pass. I don't want to pass, I want to learn. And I think every student is like that, whether it's in America or Japan or Zimbabwe or wherever it is. Everybody's like that. I have a need to understand, I have a need to learn, but we're busy pushing people through, I need you to pass. Huge